Hi, welcome to Learning Monkey. I am Raghuveer. In this class, we will discuss about a few basic concepts which we are going to use in graphs. In our last class, we clearly discussed the introduction to graph, and there we have discussed about few applications. Please watch that class and come back here. The link for the playlist is provided in the description below. Coming to today's class, so this is very simple concepts to understand. So here we are going to discuss what is meant by simple graph, multi-graph, pseudo-graph, directed and undirected graphs. So before we move on to the concepts, first we need to understand what is meant by a loop on the graph. Suppose you take a vertex v1, so hoping that you already know what vertex means and what edges means. So you take a vertex v1. On this vertex v1, we are having an edge e1 that starts at v1 and ends at v1. Then this edge we call it as a loop, or simply we call it as self-loop edges. So in our last class, we clearly discussed that edges are connections between two vertices. Here starting vertex and ending vertex both are same. It starts from v1 and ends at v1. Then we say it as self-loop edges. So we are going to use this concept in our graphs. Now let's try to understand what is meant by multi-graph. If more than one edge joining two vertices are allowed in a graph, then we say it as multi-graph. So simply if more than one edge allowed to join two vertices, then we say it as a multi-edges available for two vertices. With the example, you are going to understand it better. Let's take this example, this graph. V1, V2, V3 are the vertices. V1, V2 are connected using two edges. One edge is E1, one edge is E2. So here more than one edge allowed to connect two vertices. Then we say it as multi-edges. If multi-edges are allowed, then we say it as multi-graph. Now coming to the next definition, simple graph. A graph which do not have, so a graph that should not have loops or multi-edges. You should not have loops or multi-edges. Then we say it as a simple graph. Let's take an example, V1, V2, V3. They are simply connected with a single edges. Then we say it as simple graph. Loops and multi-edges are not allowed in this graph. Now coming to the next example, next definition, pseudo-graph. When we say it as pseudo-graph is a graph in which loops and multiple edges allowed is called pseudo-graph. So loops is allowed and multi-edges are also allowed. Then we say it as pseudo-graph. See, multi-graph means only multiple edges are allowed. Loops are not allowed. If loops and multi-edges both are allowed, then we say it as pseudo-graph. So this is the example for pseudo-graph. V1 is having multiple edges, V2 single edge, V3, V4 is having single edge, and V4 is having a self loop. This is pseudo-graph, we call it as. Now coming to the next definition, directed graph. A graph in which edges having directions is called directed graph. What's the directions means? Let's try to understand. V1 and V2 are vertices, V3 are vertices. For these vertices, we are having edges, but this edges is having direction. Even is an edge that shows the direction. What's that mean? Direction means means V1, V2 are connected in only in one direction. V1 is connected to V2. It's not that V2 connected to V1. No, it is not allowed because this edge is showing direction. Means it is connected one way. Whatever the direction it shows, that is the way it is going to be connected. If these type of edges available in our graph, then we say it as directed graph. Similarly, the next definition is undirected graph. A graph consisting edges with an unordered pair of vertices. Means there is no direction. Edge means it is a connection between two vertices. The two vertices are unordered pair of vertices. Means this E1 is a edge that connected V1 and V2. Unordered pair means V2 and V1 also. There is no order for V1 and V2. V1 is connecting V2, V2 is connecting V1 both. That's why it is unordered pair of vertices, edges connecting with unordered pair of vertices. Then we say it as a undirected graph. Similarly, directed graph means we are having ordered pair of vertices. Edges are connecting with the ordered pair of vertices. There is an order V1 connecting to V2, but here in undirected we don't have an order. That is what undirected graphs means. These are the definitions which we are going to use mostly in our graph theory concept. Not only here, graph concepts are mostly used in our data structures and design and analysis of algorithms. Most of the applications in computer science we are going to use graphs. So it is very, very important to understand these concepts. Hope you understand these examples. If you have any questions regarding the concept, please post your questions in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel and press bell icon for the latest updates. Thank you.